Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents, YouTube and Facebook. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the mayor of Abbotsford for my residents. And I am going to bring the RCMP into Abbotsford as much as the political politicians that need to save the private police with their friends that were gaining off of insider trading and holding down threats. This went too far on Abbotsford's residents. MLAs and MPs were collaborating with the mayor and the Abbotsford police to silence the little guys, you might say. A targeted hit and run in broad daylight by the mayor wheeled the top of the Abbotsford investigators and the police, chief and task force officers and criminal investigators that they could cover it. They were untouchable. And then used in the shadows in the night their guys to threaten to make sure that the public and witnesses and I wouldn't come forward and insist charges. Wrecking the Abbotsford police, men and women, tired and totally. The question now is, how many elite politicians do they have in the back to try to save the Abbotsford police because of all the millions of dollars that they stood to inflate? City councillors, thanks to Darren Brown, Ross Siemens that was loaded, rigging the elections. This organization in this criminal ring is one of the largest, I believe, in BC's history on Abbotsford's taxpayers and everything. It took an elite establishment to do this, fooling and think they were fooling Abbotsford. When I went to the RCMP, I made it clear what Darren Brown had said, and every door I was in, knowing what Vicky Hopes had to do to pump up Ross, knowing what Henry had to do to get establishments. I showed you Dreesing on Archway. I showed you Amric Moran. Today, Amric Moran is running for city council. Corky hasn't apologized. He's hanging with Chief Colin Watts. I showed you that the Abbotsford APD was looking for a name. Under me, it'll be transformated. I'll get the RCMP in. It'll be transformated to the Abbotsford Psych Ward to have these men evaluated that running around, they think they're John Wayne, they think they're Clint Eastwood, some of them think they're FBI agents, some of them think they're James Bond, and the chief he's doing this all the time with Brad Viss. And we're gonna get them guys some training. But I wanna show you experience. This is the WCB Workplace Safety Office. Let me tell you about experience, and this is directly to the Abbotsford people in the Abbotsford Psych Ward at the Abbotsford APD. These men, when there's an incident, investigators, top of the top, come out and do criminal reports, take pictures on the scene of the accident, investigate all witnesses, and do the reports and leave the office. Something Colin Watts and Mike Sir weren't going to do. This is hard-working, honest people that don't have insiders, don't stand to gain on job sites, and don't have political politicians that they got to defend. Defending every worker, no matter where you are, on what your position is. If you're a waitress, if you're in the construction, you're a project manager, you're a superintendent, no matter where you are. These men and women are top elite investigators to put stuff together on negligence for the courts to help victims, make sure victims are looked after, and they also have an arm to many major doctors, to the psych ward and to rehabilitation. That is why I recognize them right across from the Abbotsford APD new building that I'm going to transfer me. We can get their doctors over quickly to Colin Watts and his top investigators, task force officers, that they need psychiatric help. These guys will help. They'll be able to get prescriptions through the WCB for guys like Olenoff and his anger, the guy that smashed my phone my son bought me, made accusations and everything. We have to recognize that these men in uniform call themselves police officers and investigators, and they're nothing compared to these boys. And these boys do it from their heart for each citizen, for each resident, for each worker, and to make sure there's a level playing ground between the owners, the contractors, the employees, and everything. Something Abbotsford Police couldn't do. They do not take pictures with politicians and Brad Viss. They do their job, and they do their job very fine, and that is why they're never in a scandal or in problems. And they line it up for the court. Something Mike Sir couldn't do. Something Abbotsford's elite investigators and task force couldn't do. Something Colin Watts couldn't do. So they did the opposite. They were running a mob, and that's why you see the difference. You can't even compare them. The mob used violence. It used its database to search where residents were, and then it used intimidation, it used threats, and it went out of control, and they didn't know what they were doing. This is why I recognize that the Abbotsford APD, transforming under me, need psychologies, they need doctors, and they need help. And we have to get them off of our streets. We have to get them out of this thing called policing they're in. We got to get the best. And these guys will tell you that if I walk them out and I just ask them, I don't have to, I could give you my opinion. They'll say Colin Watts is useless. That's not a part of somebody that he lost the touch of work. He got lazy. He's probably sitting in his office scanning. Oh, look at Brad Viss smoke. Oh, look at Brad Viss smoke. And couldn't do work. Didn't want to defend the residents, the community, or families. This is what good experience does. And I figured Amric Moran, who cheated with Corky Neufeld, would have told Colin Watts, let's walk across the street. I'll hold your hand, and we'll ask good investigators, good guys that know how to do the job. This is why I'm serious. I'm very serious on World YouTube. That these guys went in, and under the name they called themselves police. This is the same as a hothouse place setting it up itself and saying, well, you know, we grow tomatoes, but under that name, it's a meth lab. And these guys became very sick, not doing their work and everything, and it was just sick, and then brutalized the town. They need psychiatric help, they need doctors, and as mayor, running for mayor, I care about my community. It would take me 5 seconds to say, the chief is gone, we're going to push on Mike Sir to have him criminally charged in a sentence that's unforgivable, to send a message to all law enforcement. Political ties and money do not cover up an attempted murder or corruption. And investigators do not think that they could go out and threaten and target victims to make it go away because they had somebody that they had to look after. And elite rich people don't get away with it. This guy, in 5 minutes, could take over the Abbotsford Police Department and get investigations done, get criminal reports done, go out and talk to all the witnesses. He could have had it in front of the Supreme Court immediately. He could have had all this done. And this could have been done. That is why when accidents happen and you call the WCB, I understand when you walk in here, and I know this from real good big job sites. People walk in with you out on top of the building with no harness. They're there immediately. They're there. They're on the site. They're there. And they're there for you. They're there for your families. They're there for the company. They're there for that, even though you face a fine. But we got to realize that the Abbotsford men and women up the top started getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And they started fantasizing about all the time, about Brad Viss, about all this stuff, about pictures. And all the time you saw them, gang, 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 fentanyl, 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 fentanyl. And you saw the brutal attack on the homeless with rocks. And Watts didn't call it out that they dumped them rocks, the mayor did. Because he didn't recognize it. He's not normal to not recognize that the city mayor and his dirty council went to throw rocks on Gladys Avenue and taxpayers' dollars to help Ron Funk on the illegal job sites. When you're not recognizing that, you know it's either organized crime or it's mentally sick. So I want to make sure that Colin Watts understands when you're in this situation like this, You might be able to tell your lawyer when you're up on charges, Your Honor, we need a medical evaluation on Henry Brown, Mike Sir, Keelan Olenoff, and all these cops. And under the mental elevation, he can't stand trial because he's not medically fit to be judged. But now we have to make sure we pull their driver's licenses and everything. And beating young kids up, that means they're not. But what man, even the WCB will tell you, what man stands on top of a vehicle at the Abbotsford Psych Ward Police Department? And what man stands there and behaves like a gorilla, like Bob Rich? He was doing this, and his little apes were going down the bottom. And what woman stands on the top of the van in the windshield and says, look it, I can fly. I think I'm a parrot. These guys would recognize. You need to go see my doctors in Surrey at Back in Motion. They deal with these kind of people, these psychos. And they got doctors to help you. And they know this, they recognize it. What man gets in the back of the Gator truck and he tells the other guy, take me to auction, I think I'm a horse. And he's pretending he's a horse in the back of the truck. And you gotta realize they need very good help. They need to have help, they need that help. And you know this. And then, you know, I didn't recognize that when they ring my house constantly. I should have let them in, and I could have reached out to these facilities to get them help. And they were behaving, they were behaving very bad, very violent. And I thought when I saw them behaving bad and violent, that I didn't want to jeopardize myself because they were off their medicine and they weren't taking their medicine. And we need somebody like this that could get them into doctors and get them help. But we need good elite people for our town that can hold investigations, do investigations, and talk to them. And you know, I'm always arguing for the RCMP, but these guys are good. I might have to certify them and recognize them quickly and certify them into policing right away and in top elite investigators and get them in there right away for this kind of stuff. And I might have to certify honorary members of police investigators and get them in there. That's the difference between good quality investigations that don't do favors and garbage over at the Abbotsford. Sick people, just sick, just mentally sick. And you know, I told you the women are very good people in that office there, that Abbotsford Psych Ward, and they were looking for a name. So if you're coming to Abbotsford, please come down to the Abbotsford APD Psych Ward. It's right behind the city, and you could see these guys. It'll be a good facility for them. They got a nice park out in the front. We'll build a fence, and that way they can sit on the park benches and they can watch the pigeons. And because we'll have to take the flagpoles down, because next year the police chief and his guys will be trying to climb the flagpole and pretend they're pigeons and flying up there. We got to get this all down. We must take this very serious as a community of what took place and realize they're sick. Now I want to talk to you one other thing. The people that are not sick is the lady officer, the lady person who was working in the Abbotsford Police when she stole the $250,000. And Bob Rich, she wouldn't give a leg up for Bob, and Bob had her charged, and she had to go before the court. Now she recognized she did it, she apologized she did it, and she had to pay it back. That there shows you that she don't need to go under psychiatric evaluations. She knew the difference between right and wrong, and she did that. So I'm asking Bruce Bamman again, I'm asking Rianne Gasper, I'm asking Suk Mangill, one of the best respected MPs in BC, I think right now. He's leading tremendous and very high. And I'm asking them, please, take a picture again with Collar Watts and Amric Moran. Praise them that they're doing very good. And when you go in and visit them, they can get the big smile on their face, they can get everything on their face, and they can be happy, they can go home, and their wives can now deal with this. But this here is quality. This here is outstanding. This here is leadership. This here is about their job. This here is about work. This here is not about rigging or preferential treatment or hiding things. This here is elite investigators, and that there tells you what was the difference between Abbotsford's APD psych ward and good people. Now, do I have to explain to the rest of the world, and you could already draw your conclusions, why the whole Abbotsford upper man have to be let go, and why the RCMP need to be brought in here, and what was taking place from the city of Abbotsford, from Darren Braun, from Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung, and how many people have went to the grave innocently, how many people have been in front of our courts framed innocently, how many people have been pressured and pushed out not to come forward and testify against the elites, and how many? And there's only one conclusion everybody needs to draw to. The RCMP have to and must take over Abbotsford, and it's got to be done, no matter what anybody says, because this stuff got into violence. This wasn't even politics, and this is what needed to be done. That is their experience, So I'll warn my community again. Please be very careful at night. They got these guys let go out on the street, and they're pretending that they're investigators. They're pretending they're FBI agents, John Waynes. Don't make them mad. Be very, very careful with them, and always reassure them. Mr. Pelican is running for mayor, and a lot of people are going to be running for council. Mr. Pelican's #1 goal is to make sure he's going to get you the best help there is. He's going to relieve your stress, relieve everything that you can handle, and he is going to do it. Don't mention that I'm getting the RCMP in. Don't mention that we're going to lobby for doctors. Don't mention that at all. This is a big scandal on all Abbotsford's face. And politicians knew what Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung were doing to this community. And leading politicians knew what Henry was using the Abbotsford police force and what council were doing and their responsibility. That man knew it every time they came on my job. How deep does it go? How much money and how many people are involved? Who can Mike Sure pull down by not allowing him to have criminal charges for covering up organized crime? This is why you don't want to play politics. This is why you don't want to cover up criminal reports. And this is why you want to make sure that you maintain a professional difference. Colin Watts, that there is the best. The best there is, the best there was. And I could have walked you over and got you some help, but I'm worried about my safety. I'm worried about Abbotsford's community safety. I'm going to transformate the new building, cost overruns of 20 million at that, 20 million. I would add for the fence to be put out front so you could sit on the park bench so you can't escape. And the 300,000 for the name is fitting. The Abbotsford APD Psych Ward. Please come down and visit, and it'll stay there. That name will stay there, and that will haunt you the rest of your life. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.